So I have water. What's happening, everybody? Here we are. We've got Dewey and we've got Patrick, Moto Ramblings, and my phone is ringing. So it's a Road Reality Live, right? That's what we're doing. How are we doing today, Dewey?
It would be a Road Reality Live if you dropped me right now during the introduction.
It would, right. But it's 2024, new year, new me kind of BS, right?
Hey, at least Dewey's here on time.
Yeah, Dewey was here before Patrick.
It was close, though. I left myself a lot of time, even with accounting for Latin America time, and I still cut it close getting here from dinner.
That's funny.
That's the way it goes down here. I asked for my check, and half an hour later, I hadn't seen anybody.
That's when my wife went to walk out, right?
No, my wife went to Chile one time, and she said it was the same thing all over. Like, don't expect anything to happen quickly when it comes to mealtime.
No, and it's funny because I even knew I was looking at the clock, and I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. I've got an hour to get back. I better ask for the check now. And I flagged her. You have to flag somebody down and ask for the check, and then she disappeared. I never saw her again. Half an hour later, I asked somebody else for the check, and they went and got it.
Oh my goodness!
When I first moved to the South from New England, I kind of went through the same thing. Everything was just on a much more slower pace.
Hey, Carson. Done. How's it going?
Don't mind me. I'm just here for the jokes and to moderate. You guys talk all that adventure stuff.
Oh, trust us. We will.
We plan to. There's a lot to go over.
Yes, there is.
Where do you want to start?
I'd kind of like to start with your latest video.
Okay.
You ended the video at the Chilean border, and you made some cryptic comments about, do I have enough going on? Did I do everything I was supposed to do? Well, how did that go? Give us a little hint of what the next video is going to be like.
You'll see Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. or 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, how it goes. But slight spoiler alert is this border had one big gotcha.
Really?
That you were supposed to get a form in the big city where the bus terminal is before you cross the border, that they all stamp at each of the stations, and the security guard at the end wants to make sure that there's all 5 stamps. And
you didn't get any.
I didn't go through the big city because I came down the coast, down to some minor little road through a little town that popped out near the border. And so I skipped the big town so I couldn't stop at the bus terminal and get the form. So I went to immigration, and they turned me away because I didn't have the form. And I'm trying to ask them in my broken Spanish, where do I get the form? And the lady's like, you need the form. I'm like, I know I need the form. Where do I get the form? She's like, you need the form. And so this actually doesn't make it in the video, so it's not really a spoiler, but it will go with it for anybody who watches both. Is a little old grandma. She was probably 80 years old. Heard me going back and forth, grabbed me by the arm and walked me over to a set of stairs and says, arriba, casino. And basically I had to go up into the casino in the duty-free area and pay some guy at a card table like $1 for this form.
So is this Grand Theft Auto or real life that you're doing here? Because this is like one of those, I'm going on my quest and here's 17 side quests sort of thing.
Yes, no. This is real life, and but it wasn't really that hard once you had the form. It was just
once the old lady told you what to do.
Yeah, most of the people that go through are coming by bus or something else, crossing the border. And so they pick up the form, or everybody goes through that big town and they cross that border all the time and they know it, as the crazy American. I had heard that you needed some piece of paper and that maybe you could get it from a taxi driver or a bus driver.
But not from a car dealer.
I didn't really know anything else. And I figured the best thing to do is just walk up there and try first, right? And let them make them tell you no before I go through the hassle. And they told me no, and then I had to go through the hassle, but it wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a pretty cool little story that, I love the fact that the little old lady helped you out.
Yes. And like like these Latin grandmothers are. She was about 4'7", you know, just a sweet little old lady.
Well, that kind of John's little headline on the bottom there, show Dewey some love by subscribing to his channel. I know the answer to this, but the folks watching probably have no idea. Why are we doing all these lives on my channel and on John's channel?
My answer is twofold. One is that both you and John were very early supporters of mine, and we became friends. And I want to be able to push anybody who watches my videos to go check out both of your channels and hopefully enjoy them and subscribe. And so, you know, I want to share that. And it goes both ways. You know, this way your viewers might get a chance to see an adventure that they might not see some other way.
They're not going to see it on my channel.
I think it works for everybody. I think it's better if we did everything on my channel, then only the people who already watch my stuff are going to know about it. And this way it goes, everybody gets to kind of hear about it, and we get to help each other out, which is, you know, it's more important to me to help everybody else out than to help myself out.
Well, I thank you for that, because I think it's awesome that you're doing that. And I knew that answer, and I kind of wanted everybody else to hear that answer, because I think
he also needs the help. He also needs the help because he's not getting to 1K by himself.
Yeah, I need all of John's viewers to come watch.
I meant Patrick. I meant Patrick needs help. Dewey's going to get there eventually.
I like what
Patrick's ahead of me. I bet Patrick gets there before I do.
I don't know.
I bet you I beat you both to it.
And I've got to give a big shout out to Jody as well, because I saw she popped into the comments. Jody, it's great to see you, and everybody go check out Purple on Three's video from today. Jody, I'm so happy that you got to get out and ride. That made my day watching that video this morning.
Oh man,
that's incredible.
A lot of truth there. Yep.
And as far as Scott goes, he's going to kind of bring up another question for me. He's got in there that he thought you did it because our internet was better. Why are you in one spot right now?
Well, my bike has a little bit of an issue. It's not a major issue, we don't think, but my cam chain tensioner is gone. But hopefully I didn't ride it farther than I had to. It started making noise on the day riding into where I'm at. So hopefully there's no larger damage, and we're hoping that tomorrow at the Honda dealer, we're going to take the cam chain tensioner in and try to find a matching part, because my bike was never sold here.
Right.
So we're hoping that something from an XR or a CB or something will be the same part, because it's Honda. They probably only made 2 cam chain tensioners, and everything uses one of those 2, I hope.
Right.
But that's no guarantee. And when we put that in, then we need to make sure that the cam chain is in good shape. But we can't really test that until the new tensioner's in. So that's what I'm doing.
Kind of explains a little bit about that, so that most people don't think it's just the chain that you can see running your sprocket.
No, this is the chain inside the engine that connects the cams that drive the valves that let the gas and the air into the engine. And it needs a certain amount of tension on it, and there's a spring that pushes against it and keeps that tension. So it's that spring that's broken. So the chain is still there, and nothing contacted the bike runs. It just makes noise right now. But if I go too long like that, it will damage things.
Right. It'll ruin your engine.
Yeah, and ruin my engine. So we're hoping that when we put the new spring in, basically everything's good to go. But we won't know. So I have a couple of contingency plans if we need to do major service to it, or we need to wait for parts to be shipped from North America, other things. I've already kind of thought of that scenario and have plans for what I'll do if that happens. So
can you give us a hint?
Yeah, one of them is the last.
He's going to borrow that guy's Harley. I'm going to talk over you now. You're gonna borrow that
Yeah.
guy's heritage softail that's been riding with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he blew some fork seals. He was a little worried about getting back to Brazil with it. That all the dirt road on a heritage softail took its toll on that bike. So
I imagine.
there's no perfect answer. But the town that I was in previous to getting here, actually, I stayed with a family that has two little cabanas basically in their backyard, and they were the sweetest people. They drove me around to all the stuff to see around town, to lookouts and viewpoints, and then we went out to dinner and had beers with each other every night, and
That's awesome.
they they enjoyed it too. I could tell it was genuine, and they said, why don't you stay for a month, we'll rent you the cabana for a month, and
Wow.
just hang out and enjoy it. And I said, well, no, I probably need to get going. As much as I'd like to do that. Well, the weather's good. I should see stuff down here. But it's only like 2 hours away from here. And
so you could go
so
back.
if I can't ride my bike, I think I'll call them and say, hey, I want to rent the cabana for a month. By the way, can you drive 2 hours and pick me and my stuff up, because I'm going to rent it for a month.
And from what you said, it sounds like they'd just be no problem. They'd just come get you.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would be an issue at all. So yeah, that's kind of my backup plan if I need to be down here for a while waiting for parts or something like that. So yeah, always have always a plan C.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
Yeah.
That kind of brings up another question for me. Sorry, John. Your last video ended out of Peru going into Chile. How long ago was that in real time for you?
Quite a while, and I've got hi Andre. That's awesome that Andre's on here watching. So Andre, you guys will see Andre when we get to the Carretera Austral and Torres del Paine and that area. Andre and his wife rode all the way down from Brazil, and we're doing it 2 up on a V-Strom, Patrick.
I love it.
And yeah, we had a great old time. So it's awesome that he's on here.
Cool.
Andre, I don't know. I don't think you have it in Brazil any more than they have it in Argentina, because it's for a CRF. They're either going to have it because it cross-references to a bunch of stuff, or I'm going to have it shipped from North America. So
it's a Honda, right? Then it's probably a Civic or Accord part you need.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, Patrick's dash on his Goldwing comes straight out of like a '94 Honda Accord, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I got a flat 6. Dewey, I do live right near a Honda dealer if it comes down to that.
Yeah. I may be, depending on shipping times and cost, it may be more cost efficient for somebody to hop up who wants to go to see some Argentina.
Yep. All right. So getting back to the time difference between the video you just released and where you're at, a lot went on.
A lot. A lot went on. I feel like where the videos are at now is just kind of the warm up, because really all of the good stuff happened after where the video's at. The video happened in late November, early December that I just released this week. So that's been a lot, and really all the stuff that people think about coming to South America for happens after this stuff. You have all of the Patagonia stuff, all of the end of the road, all of that stuff. My family, yeah. Although there's not really a video of me and my family.
Okay.
That was our time. I didn't film anything. I took pictures of us, doing stuff, but I wanted to enjoy getting to. Yeah, I wanted to enjoy getting to spend Christmas with my family, so I didn't make a video about it. I just enjoyed being around them,
which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my mom might be a little disappointed. My mom wanted to be on YouTube.
Well, tell her to call me. I'll make sure she gets on YouTube.
We'll put some pictures of my mom up or something.
There you go. So one of the things I wanted to kind of touch upon was you had to get on a ferry, and we may have talked about this a little bit in the last live because
Yeah.
we did discuss the southern point, but a lot of people here probably didn't hear this. Tell us a little bit about catching that ferry and what happened when you did get to that southernmost point.
Well, there were actually multiple ferries I had to catch. So I don't know which one you're talking about because there's two that I miraculously got on.
And that was kind of what I was looking for, is how you ended up getting on these ferries, even though you were told it probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah, the first
He
one.
snuck on.
What? No,
You
no,
snuck
it's
on.
not. No.
Stowaway.
The first one was a long ferry. It was 2 days, and it goes from basically the southern end of the Carretera Austral in Chile down to the very, very southern end of Chile at Puerto Natales, which is where Torres del Paine is. And that one is apparently very, very difficult and very rare to get on, especially if you don't make reservations well in advance. A lot of people told us that we wouldn't get on it without having made reservations months in advance. We looked on the website and it showed that it was fully booked. So on a whim, another American and I that was doing this walked down to the ferry office, and it said it opened at 10. We walked down there at like 10:20. It was still closed. And so that day I had told Cristiano on the Harley that I would go to V. O'Higgins with him one way or the other. I said, if I don't have a ticket for the ferry, I'll still go because then I've got to ride back. So I'm this close. I'm going to get to the end of the road. And if I have to ride back, I have to ride back. And so I told the other Mary, I said, I'm going to go back and start packing some stuff because they're still closed. And he said, okay, I'm going to hang out here, wait, half an hour, see if they open up and show up. And sometime later, some young teenage girl was walking by and just happened to ask him if he needed any help or anything because he was just standing there. He says, oh, I'm just waiting for the office to open. She goes, oh, she pulls out her cell phone. She goes, let me call the lady who runs the office.
That's so
and
cool.
Calls her, and she pops out from her house that you can see from the office and comes down. So he explains that we need tickets for this ferry, and this is like Thursday and the ferry's on Saturday. And she goes, the computer system shows it's all full. And he goes, no way, and she goes, well, I can't get a reservation for your motorcycles, so I have no guarantee that your vehicles will get on. She's like, but I think I can sell you tickets for your person, which is always the hard part for this ferry, is getting, because they drop tour buses full of people off, because this ferry goes through all of the scenic fjords in southern Chilean Patagonia, so it's quite a neat ferry ride. And so she sold him the tickets, and then got all of our passport information, all that, which then they got wrong and had to reissue, and she couldn't reissue my ticket. So it was a whole thing. When we got to the ferry terminal, they're checking everybody's reservation. I said, I have a reservation. He said, you're not on the list. I said, here's my reservation number. He's like, you're not on the list. It's like, no, call the lady at the office. And they called her and they talked and went back and forth a few times. And we told John he had a spot on the ferry, and he let me on.
And your bike got on.
Yeah. And my bike got on. Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of room for vehicles. Really, the problem is the seats, because it's a 2-day ferry ride. So they're not going to oversell seats, because it's not like you can do standing room only for 2 days, because you have to sleep and they have to have food and all of that for the whole thing. So that was the first one that I had to get. But I didn't really have to get that one, because I could have ridden. It would have taken me probably 4 or 5 days worth of riding to backtrack and around to where we ended up. But I could have ridden around to where we ended up. The next one was to actually the ferry to the island on Tierra del Fuego. And I knew that there was something that I wanted to do near where the ferry landed. And so my plan was always to stay the night basically at the first town where the ferry drops off. So I figured I'll go get the late ferry, because it said there were 2 ferries. There was one at 9 a.m. and one at 5 p.m. I was like, I'll just take the late ferry, get a hotel, get up the next morning, do the stuff I want to do, which will be in a video.
Of course.
But that morning, the other American was going to be taking the early ferry because he was trying to get to Ushuaia as fast as he could. And he sent me a message at 9:30 and said the ferry's delayed due to high wind. It's not sailing. He's like, they tell us maybe noon. And at noon, he said, no, they're still not going. You know, he says, I'm going to ride, 3 hours the other way to try to catch another ferry that hopefully the wind's not as bad where it's at. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll run down to the ferry terminal and buy my ticket for the night ferry so that I have it. Even though I'm on a motorcycle and it's easy to get on that way, I have my ticket. I've got nothing else to do. And because I had to check out of my hotel at that point. So
okay.
So I get down to the ferry terminal and it's 1:45 in the afternoon. And I'm assuming that I'm buying a ticket for the 5 p.m. ferry. And I go in and I tell the lady I want to buy a ticket for the 5 p.m. ferry. She goes, 2. I said, no, 5. She goes, 2. I said, no, 5. She goes, now. she's like, we go.
Go.
Like, oh. So I paid, I grabbed, I tossed my helmet on, shoved my gloves in my jacket. They rolled me on the boat and I'm not even parked and the gate's coming up and this thing is leaving and they're, before my kickstand's even down.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
got on
so
that one and
cool.
across. So that one worked out as well too.
And then you went to Ushuaia.
Then I went to Ushuaia. Yeah.
And then you went even further south.
Then I went even farther south. Yeah, I went to a place called Estancia Moat or Moat, which is the farthest point that you can go by any vehicle anywhere in the world that's not Antarctica. So you cannot get a car anywhere farther south or a motorcycle anywhere farther south than I got.
That's
at least as
incredible.
far as I or anybody else can tell. So
Well,
And
Fast and Furious 12, they're going to be paragliding with, Honda CRF 250s right on to the very southern tip of it, and they're going to ride all the way to Antarctica.
sure, you can always go with enough money and enough ingenuity. You can go pretty much anywhere, but by normal means, this is as far as you can go.
Right.
If you chartered a boat or owned a big boat and a yacht and put your car on it, you can go places I'm sure that are farther south. But
So did you charter a boat?
no.
Oh. Well, that's it.
Now when you did get down to the southern point, you went through the touristy area, then you took that little dirt road and you went down to that point you were just talking about. You weren't quite alone though, were you?
Well, there were some horses.
I love that. You and the
Did
horse.
you get on the horse and ride further south?
No.
Can't go further south.
I don't trust vehicles that don't do what I tell them. Horses have agency. But yeah, it's a neat, and I think I'm actually looking forward to that video because in a rare thing that I don't do very often in any of my videos is I just filmed myself talking kind of directly to everybody who's watching it, because I realized that most people watching the video of this are never going to get the chance to go to where I went to or do something like this. And so I talked a lot kind of about what it felt like to actually accomplish that, and looking back at everything that it took to get there. And it's a kind of a lot different because most of the stuff I do, even when I talk about stuff, it's through my helmet cam. I don't just set up the camera and talk directly kind of to the camera and to everybody who's watching. So I think that people are going to enjoy that video because it kind of gives you a little bit of idea of what it feels like for somebody to have ridden an entire continent to get to a little point on the end of a dirt road with some horses. And then to turn around and go, I've got to go do it again the other way.
Now I got to go back. Yeah. And for me, a lot of these lives are trying to get to that point because I know I'm never going to experience it. I think John just said he knows he's never going to experience it. Most of us aren't. So kind of knowing and hearing your experiences and your feelings and these people that you've met, that kind of thing is something that kind of really intrigues me.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not going to say it's one of my failures because it's a very conscious choice on my part, but I don't film a lot of the interactions that I have with people because I want to have those interactions with
Yep.
people, not be the guy holding up a camera making, not to shoot shots at anybody. There's YouTubers who do that and people really like that and they like to see those engagements.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm doing the trip selfishly for myself, right? I'm not doing a trip to make YouTube videos. I'm doing the trip because I want to do it. And those times just talking with people and the times spending with friends of mine now, it's not stuff that I feel I need to record. I feel like it's more important for me to be in the moment and having those interactions, not trying to film it.
Right.
So there's a
And that
lot of
makes
that
all
stuff
the
that's
sense.
not going to be in videos.
Yep. And and I think that's a great idea because you're experiencing it for you, and if you put a camera on, it's going to change that experience. But I
It
do
is.
like the idea of you sitting by yourself every now and then and maybe doing something like you did when you were near the horses. Like even now, you in where you are and why you're there, you're in the hotel. Of course, you're doing a live with us, but maybe you could sit down every few days and just do a short little video. Hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. It's what I'm feeling. Right, Tomek.
In the least creepy way possible, Tomac.
Right.
Tomek wants the super slow mo.
Well, Tomac, just fly down to Brazil, and rent a
See you.
Harley and cruise around Copacabana in Rio and see what happens.
And see them yourself. I love it. So, John, you got anything for him before I continue on with my questions?
Not really. No, I'm enjoying the storytelling. This is great.
Yep.
I don't have to
And-
watch his videos now. I just do a live with him once a month, and I get all the synopsis in this hour, and I can sit back and chat with you guys.
Yeah, it's funny because I try to tell the stuff that I know isn't going to make it into the video. Sorry, my phone's ringing.
Mr.
Oh.
Popularity.
Yeah, no, but I try to talk about the stuff that I know is not going to be in the videos because I know the stuff that I filmed, and I know what the videos are going to be. So this is kind of the bonus round to kind of fill in stuff that happened between the videos or there's not much in the video.
Well, speaking of which, after you were in the southern end, you decide, well, you didn't decide, you had to come north. I mean, there's no other options. But you did decide you're going to kind of stay in the middle of the country instead of riding the coast. And there's multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons I think was Patagonia.
Well, yeah, I'm riding. I mean, I went through Chilean Patagonia on the Carretera Austral side as far as that road goes. But now I'm coming up the Argentinian side, and it's all Patagonia, even on the coast, it's Patagonia. But I'm in near the Andes, so it's the big mountains, the glaciers, all of that stuff that you see in nature films. I'm in all those places. That's
Now,
the whole
there's
goal.
a very specific reason why you went there, isn't there?
There is.
Tell
One of the
us.
one of the big reasons I wanted to do this trip, and I talk about it a little bit in the video. There's going to be a video about this. But one of the big reasons I did it was it must have been 15 or 20 years ago now. It's been a long time. I saw a photo of a motorcycle rider on a dirt road with Mount Fitzroy, which is a lot of people don't know about it, but if anybody in mountaineering or anything like that knows about Mount Fitzroy, it's a huge granite spire into the sky in the Argentinian Andes. Well, I guess it's on the border of Argentina and Chile, but it's the mountain that's in the logo for the Patagonia sportswear. It's that jagged peak that they use for their logo. And it was a picture of a motorcycle rider going with the sun behind him, and a big dust trail, and just this mountain in front of him. And that was one of the real things that, all the way back then, it wasn't that I was planning on doing it, but it was like, that's something I want to do. I want to go see that place in person. I want to see what that's like. And so that was one of the big things. I call it my bucket list shot. Was I wanted a shot of me and the motorcycle in that mountain.
And
And
how did it go about? How did it come about? Did it happen? How did it happen?
it did. You'll have to watch the video. There's a whole video on it because I thought it wasn't going to. I wasn't sure it was going to happen because the day that I rode in to where the mountain is, and I rode the same road that photo was taken on, which is now paved. It's not a dirt road anymore. But I rode that same road past the spot where the photo was taken, and I was getting poured on by rain. You couldn't see a thing. You couldn't even see the town, let alone the mountain behind it, because there was so much rain and cloud. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that it was going to happen. But I also told myself that if the weather was bad, I would go somewhere else and come back in a week when the weather was better. I said, I'm not leaving down here until I get this photo, or at least I get to see the mountain. So
And
I did. Yeah, that's a spoiler alert. But yeah.
Man, Patrick, you're just relentless.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
That's
did.
why I'm here.
I got the shot that I want. I know that Patrick has seen it, and John's seen it as well. They've seen the picture.
Yeah, it's
So.
incredible.
I don't actually follow him on social media.
Yeah, it's super incredible because again, I've seen the picture, on the Patagonia logos and all that, and then the story you told about how long ago you saw the guy on the dirt bike with the mountain. And when you told me at first that you went there and you just couldn't get the picture because of the weather, I was so disappointed for you. So then when you told me you did get it, I was like, yes.
Yeah. It's one of those. I think that I would have stayed as long as I needed to. I probably would have had to find some different accommodation because it's a very expensive city to stay in by American standards, let alone South American standards.
Okay.
Because it's a small place that nobody but tourists go to, so it's nothing but expensive hotels basically. And but like I said, I was going to watch the weather, and if I needed to ride to a small town, a day's ride away and wait it out until the weather was going to be good and go back, that's what I was going to do. I was not going to go there and not see that mountain. I was not going to ride halfway around the world and not see it.
So speaking of which, have you been staying in mostly hotels, or have you been doing a lot of camping too?
Mostly hotels. The wind is relentless in Patagonia. Did
you buy one of the puffy jackets?
I mean, I have my layers that I wear under the motorcycle jacket, and I mean all the stuff.
You need the one with the logo on it. You need the one with the Patagonia logo on it.
I do actually have one.
Yeah,
of course.
No, I took it with me, and it's hanging up over there.
It's like I rode across the world to this. I rode across the world to this location, and all I got was this puffy jacket. That's what you need.
Speaking of wind, way back when I first got an adventure bike, my buddy Roger and I were talking a lot about all these different adventures that we thought would sound really cool. And that was the first time I ever heard of Route 40. And one of the things I heard about it was the incredible winds that you can run into. Yes. Don't you have a story about wind and Route 40?
I do. We
of course you do.
So there's what some people call the most difficult section of the Route 40. It's the 73 Malditos, or the Damned 73. It's 73 kilometers of deep, loose gravel and riverbed rocks, and there's large truck traffic that goes through and puts nasty ruts in it. And everybody says it can be bad when the weather's perfect. Don't ride it in heavy winds or if it's rained or anything like that. And so the day I actually did it, 2 days after I got the picture that we were just talking about. And the wind was just horrible the day that I left from getting the picture. And I stopped at a little refuge that a bunch of hitchhikers and bicyclists were using to try to warm up and get out of the wind, because the wind was so bad. It was at an intersection, and I'd had a predominantly tailwind, and I knew as soon as I turned that corner, that wind was a crosswind, and I didn't want to ride in it.
Mm.
So I had looked at the app on my phone for the weather, and in an hour and a half or 2 hours, the wind was supposed to calm down a bit. It was going to go from kind of 40, 45 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour. And I said, okay, 30 miles an hour I can deal with on a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind, but 45 I don't really want to do. If I can wait an hour and a half and it's going to be better, I'm going to wait. So I hung out with them, and talked and told stories, and and so then I got there, and I got to the hotel, to a little hostel, and I got the last room that was available. And there were five or six other motorcyclists all at that same spot, because everybody was doing the same thing, which was nobody was riding that road that day because the wind was so bad. So everybody was there. And so we all decided to get up early in the morning and kickstands up at 6 a.m. just as the sun was coming up, because you can't ride it. You don't want to ride it in the dark, but you don't want to ride it in the wind. So you want to try to get right. We wanted to hit the beginning of that gravel. Yeah, and we had a ton of wind in Torres del Paine, Andre, as well. This was similar, and so we got right to where the dirt road for the Dam 73 starts, right as the sun came up and we could see. And long story was, we got through it, but because we were there early. Later that day, the wind was just terrible. So we, as a group, rolled into a gas station along the way that kind of has like a truck stop hostel. And we asked about a room, and they said, we have a room for 3, and there was 5 of us. And 2 of the guys said, I don't really want to stop here. We're going to keep going. So they said, that works out perfect. There's 3 of us. We'll stay here for this room for 3. Because I don't really want to ride any farther in the wind. I don't have to be anywhere. Why would I go do that when I can stop here?
Mm-hmm.
And,
where were the others from?
So one of them's Italian, which I'll get to that in a minute. One of them was Italian. One was from Paraguay. The other 2 were Argentinians, and then myself. And it was the 2 Argentinians kept going, and the Paraguay guy, me, and the Italian stayed behind and shared a room. But we got there at probably 2:33 in the afternoon. As it went on, more and more motorcycles rolled in, all with the same thought of, I'm not going any farther in this wind. And the forecast for the next day was for, I'll do the conversion, Andre, for you. The forecast the next day was 100 to 110 kilometer an hour winds, which is 60 to 65 mile an hour.
Yeah.
So we all said, none of us are riding. We're all staying here till this wind dies down. We're not stupid. And well, there's a few stupid people, and it turned out bad. One of the guys who was there had left, and we heard over the police scanner in the cafe that he was in an accident, had broken his leg.
Oh no.
Somewhere up the road from the wind. And then about 1 in the afternoon, a tow truck pulled a camper van that had been blown over and rolled into the parking
lot. I don't even ride when it's like 15-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah.
And here you are in 45 and 30, and that's nuts, man.
Yeah, so this was the real deal. So we all hung out in this gas station hostel for 2 days, 2 full days, until the wind let up. So it ended up being, there was a guy on a Dominator 650 from Germany, Giorgio, who's my new friend, the Italian, on a GS 1200, Leo from Paraguay, who was on, forget one. It was a small bike though, like a 250 or to a 220. A young kid from Argentina on a tiny motorcycle, Luciano, who's going to be in a video. A few Brazilian riders on BMWs, a few van people. One of the guys in the van had a motorcycle on the back. So basically, we all hung out for 2 days with nothing to do but drink beer and sit around and drink beer or coffee, depending on the time of day, and tell stories. But there was not a lot of language commonality between everybody, because, for example, Giorgio the Italian speaks no English and just a little bit of Spanish, but a lot of the Italian words are close to Spanish. I speak just a little bit of Spanish that I know, and the German guy spoke no Spanish, but he spoke good enough English that him and I could talk. So a lot of times it was this game of telephone of the German would tell me something. I would try to figure out how to tell it to one of the Spanish people as best I could in Spanish and a little bit of English that they understood. They'd turn and tell it to the Italian in the best they could. And it was this whole game back and forth of all of us. But we had a great time. A lot of us are, we keep in touch, and we just had an absolute blast. It was fun.
So it takes you an hour to have a 10-minute conversation because of all the translations.
Right. Well, and what happens is everybody goes through this process of where are you from? Where are you going to? Where did you start? How long have you been on the road? And that takes 40 minutes through this game of telephone. And by the time that person's done, a new rider's ridden in, and they speak a different language, and the whole process starts back over again until everybody slowly introduces themselves.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness.
Huh. Yeah, it was fun.
Have you done any nightlife type stuff, or just kind of sticking to the less traveled paths?
No, in Bogota I went to a nightclub, but that was months ago.
Are you still planning to meet up with those girls in Brazil?
Those girls in Brazil. The Brazilians I know is Andre and Alessandra, his wife, and Cristiano. So I'm planning to go to Brazil. I want to go see some stuff. I'll talk with Andre about timing and how to do it and where to go and things. I don't know why somebody is calling me.
Well,
everybody you know is here.
John asked about the nightlife, but you have done some things. You went on an airplane and looked at the Naztec stuff. You went to a soccer game.
I've done stuff, but I'm not going out clubbing every night. I'm an old man.
But you've done some pretty cool things, even if you're not out
I've done
clubbing.
a lot of cool things. Yeah, I've done a lot of cool things, but when you do as much cool things as I do, you need to go to bed to sleep to do the same cool stuff the next day. You don't have time for clubs.
Right. But off the bike, even getting on that small plane and looking at the hieroglyphs, the carvings, whatever they're. That's just so cool. And you went out on the boat and saw all the penguins. There's just so many other things other than just the motorcycle riding that are super cool.
And it's everywhere you go down here. There's always something to see, and everything's new to me. Every time I go someplace, it's somewhere I've never been before. So there's always something to do and see, no matter where I'm at.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Does it ever get tiring though? Not having any familiarity with the area or the people?
I get physically, I physically have to take days off and rest. I can't go 7 days a week for months on end without a break. But do I get tired of doing it? No. It's amazing to get to do this every day.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So we're living vicariously through Dewey.
Exactly.
I hope it's more than that, though. I hope that if anything, maybe it inspires somebody else to go, if that guy can do it, I can definitely do it.
I have the opposite reaction. If that guy can do it, I sure as hell can.
You don't give yourself quite enough credit. You say it like, oh, if he can do it, anybody can do it. And that's true physically, but most of us don't have it here to be able to do what you're doing.
I mean, it's true mentally though too. I don't have any talent or skill that anybody else who doesn't have the ability to go do. Anybody could do it if they decide they want to.
And that's it. If they decide they want to, you decided and you committed, and everything you've done to make this happen is all stuff that I know I'm not, and I'm pretty sure, John, we don't have the commitment level to it.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
I should be committed, but I'm not committed to doing that kind of stuff. Oh,
yeah.
and I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, and that's going to be Patrick's retirement. He made it a whole 45 minutes without mentioning it.
I wasn't going to mention it.
All right, good. He knows if he does, I put his ass in timeout.
It's all old hat now.
You were just looking for an excuse to try to put somebody in timeout, so you thought you'd bring it up.
There we go. I just did it anyway. It's my show. I can run it how I want to. I'm kidding. I love you, Patrick.
Uh-huh.
But
So
yeah,
you
Patrick,
mentioned-
it's one of those, I know that you have the ability to go do it if you wanted to. That's what I mean by I have no special skill or ability or anything like that nobody else does have. It was just a matter of I decided I was going to do it and I was committed to doing it. And that's and that's not for everybody, and it's not for everybody depending on where they're at in their life either. If you're like John and you have kids, it doesn't make sense to go spend 2 years of your life riding around someplace where you don't see your kids, right? That'd be probably reckless.
That sounds like a great vacation.
Yeah, and I see Jody's comment there. Congratulations to you too, Jody. For me, even if I had the time, my kid's grown up, the time, the money, I still don't see myself ever being able to do it because the struggles would overwhelm me. Whereas for you, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, let's go do something else. Let's do this. Let's wait 3 days. Let's,
I mean, for me, the payoffs are so much greater than any of the struggles have been, and that's coming from a guy who, a lot of people do it with a lot less struggles than I had on this trip. If I'm very honest, right? Most people don't have a motorcycle stolen enough to fly back and buy another one.
Most of them aren't riding a 250.
Yeah, but the payoffs and the people that I've met and the memories that I've made far exceed any of the struggles I've gone through. It really is.
Well, you mentioned
Georgia. You see the world differently after doing something like this because you meet so many people that inspire me. There's people that I meet that I go, this is what it's about. This is what people should be doing.
And for you, the meeting the people, you mentioned it several times now, and I know of a couple of names just from talking to you. Tell us about these guys that are now people that you are never going to not be in contact with for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, sure. There's the names there that people have heard in several live streams. Obviously, I always have to start off with Caesar and Carla and Gustavo and Martin out in Mexico. When the bike got stolen, that was just I forever owe those people a debt for taking care of me the way that they did.
And Carla riding the motorcycle the way she did, I love her.
yeah. We all. I still talk to Carla all the time. We're gonna get Carla up to the States and take her to do some riding in Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho. Go see all the big stuff. So we'll get her there.
Bring her to see the Washington Monument. I'll join in on that video.
That's such a boring ride, though.
Have you seen the traffic there? It's not boring. It's downright stupid sometimes.
Yeah, but if you've ridden through Mexico City, it might be boring.
I think I need to ride through Mexico City just so it tames everything around here, around me.
Yeah, but all the people in Mexico, in Colombia, all the people at Donkey Sunrise.
I see you're still wearing the hat.
Yeah, I know. I still, my hat's falling apart actually because I keep it strapped on the handlebars, and so it's starting to come apart from the wind.
It's doing this, yeah.
But when I go back to Columbia, I'm going to get myself another hat at Donkey Sunrise.
There you go.
Yeah, no, all those people up there were fantastic, and then and as you'll see when I get there, when I get to the Carretera Austral, and Andre and Alessandra and Cristiano and Terry, you'll see it was a whole group of us that sort of took on the road together and became friends in the process of doing it. And hopefully I am able to tell that story the way that I want to, because as beautiful as the road was, I can't think about that road without thinking about the people that I did it with. And
So
awesome.
I got a point about that.
neat spot.
I'm going to interrupt because I want to. I have a point about that. Your voiceover work has gotten much better, especially the last like 2 or 3 videos. I think you've been doing a bang up job of telling the story you want to tell that maybe you can't tell while you're riding and dealing with the conditions. So I just want to give you a little props there, because that's been a really differentiating factor. Stop talking over me. Go ahead.
I'll try to do more voiceover work. Funny enough, the voiceover work in the last 2 videos wasn't because I wanted to. It was because my microphone had broken, and it wasn't until I downloaded the footage after my SD card got full and I watched it that I realized that I needed to change my microphone out. So I had no commentary, so I had to do the voiceover stuff.
Maybe just do that moving forward. Just do the voiceover and skip trying to talk about it while you're riding.
Yeah, no, and I may, the voiceover is a lot of work though, but I hope that when I do the Carretera video that I can sort of tell some of the story of the people, because that's going to be a lifelong lasting memory for me, was getting to do that as a group, because it's one thing to accomplish something by yourself and feel good about it. It's, but when you're in a group and you all get to celebrate together and, sitting around having beers and VO Higgins when we all got there, was such a fun memory. And that's what I'm always going to think about when I think about doing that road, was, watching Cristiano on that Harley Davidson bounce down the road to VO Higgins, and yeah.
And here you are thinking you're badass on your CRF 250, and he's out there on a Heritage.
Yeah, and there's some funny stuff that I just saw it just aired on Chilean national TV, the documentary about the Carretera Austral, and Cristiano's in it because they found him riding his Harley down the road and decided that's an interesting story. And then they interviewed him and filmed him, and there was a whole crew when we got there. It was
That's so cool.
a whole thing. And so there'll be a little bit of that on the video. So I hope that I can do the story justice when I make that video. That might be one where there's a gap between my weekly videos, because to put it together the way I want to, it might take more time than normal, but we'll see.
Well, you could have been working on that if you weren't doing this with us.
Yeah. I'd probably be drinking a beer and going to bed early. I worked on some stuff a little bit this morning. But there's that story, and then we'll get up farther when we get to the 73 and Giorgio, and then I just had coffee with Giorgio yesterday here where I'm at, because we ended up in the same city. And I very much like Giorgio. He's from Italy, and so we speak this. At this point, it's not Spanish, it's not Italian, it's not English. It's a language the two of us have figured out with some hand gestures and whistles.
So you're like the Minions.
Like the Minions.
But we spent 6 hours yesterday. We got coffee, we went to the grocery store, we walked around the city, we sat down and had a beer, and we walked around the city some more and took pictures, and we talked the entire 6 hours in this language that the two of us have figured out how to communicate. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I really enjoy Giorgio. He's been another one of those people that I'm going to remember, because he's such a character, and and he's got the right spirit of adventure, like everybody else that I've talked about. There's a spirit of adventure. And then the last person and the last story that I'll tell on that is when we were stuck there in the wind at that place. One of the guys was a young guy, like 23, 24 years old, riding a 125cc dirt bike and traveling around his country. He's from Argentina, but traveling around his country with his tent strapped on the back, and he's wearing nothing but sweatpants and tennis shoes because that's all he owns, and he's on a 125 dirt bike. And I asked some people, there was a very scenic road through Patagonia National Park and then up to a remote pass and then up to another city that I wanted to do because it was supposed to be very beautiful and it's a dirt road. And everybody said, it's a difficult road. It's very remote. Nobody goes up there. You shouldn't do that alone. It's like, I understand why you want to go, but you shouldn't go up there alone. In case something happens, it's not the place to go solo and risk it. And so, I was kind of, do they mean it? Do they not mean it? How safe is it really? How not safe is it really? Should I go? Should I not go? I can't finish my trip today, but I can end my trip today if I make a bad choice, right?
Yeah.
So you weigh those. And so this kid, his name is Luciano. Luciano came up to me and said, I heard you were talking about going to ride the 41 up to Los Antigos. I said, yeah. I said, I really want to go do it. And he said, I'll go with you. He's like, I'd like to go up there. I said, all right, let's go. And so the two of us rode up there, and it's a decently difficult road in some places, and it is definitely very remote. We passed a pair of bicyclists
Always.
and a gaucho on a horse. That was the only people that we saw all day on that road.
No kidding.
But were the bicyclists riding abreast or were they in line? Because they like to ride abreast here in the States. Block the whole lane.
No, because when you're climbing those hills, somebody's always,
ahead.
Is always 1,000 feet or a quarter mile ahead of the next person because they're going faster. Sometimes they're 2 miles ahead of the next person, and they wait at the top. But I mean, and I have nothing but respect for the bicyclists doing the travel like this. You think it's hard on a motorcycle doing what I'm doing?
I couldn't.
Imagine
There's
having
no
to
way.
pedal it the whole way.
And you're pedaling it not only with you on those roads, but with whatever gear you have.
And all your gear and all the water. I mean, I can go with less water. If I run out of water, it's kind of, I've got to go find water the next time I get a chance. If they run out of water, that can be real trouble, right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Water's heavy.
Yeah, huge amount of respect for the bicyclists doing it. They carry so much stuff. They can go half the distance I can go in a day, and the wind probably affects them twice as much.
It's amazing. But I do have to agree with John. When they're on the road riding two side by side, it does tick me off.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, me too. And when I get stuck behind them, I get ticked off. But yeah, the ones traveling and on a remote road like this, who cares, right?
Right. Yeah. Those are the bicyclists you stop and talk to because you want to know how far have they pedaled.
Yeah. They have a great story.
Yeah.
The guys around here, I just yell out, "Pass me on the left."
Yeah. But Luciano, though, I loved his spirit because every single time we stopped, and he didn't care because I wanted to put up the drone and take pictures, and he was all for doing whatever we were doing. And every time he takes his own knife, he's got the biggest smile and wants to tell me about the lake that we stopped at or the mountain that we stopped at. He was so proud to show off his country and so happy to be doing what he was doing. And he's doing it on a bike that most of us probably wouldn't think about riding to the grocery store on, let alone around a country and through doing this stuff, and he was traveling with all his stuff strapped on the back and in his tennis shoes and sweatpants. And, it reminded me of what adventure riding should be. It shouldn't be about the gear or the bike that you have or the things. It's about going to see new things and being excited to be where you are, and the fact that you get to go ride motorcycles through that place. And I think Luciano really, really has that right spirit. And I very much enjoyed getting to spend the day with him and go share that experience with him. It was very fun.
He sounds
I
like
can just
somebody you can
imagine.
hang out with and just be happy.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just, I can just imagine Jody Purple on 3 sitting down right now taking notes. She's like, I wonder if I should ask if you would take a spider down this same path, because she's just taking notes because she's going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the spider could do it. The problem with the spider is you can't miss. Cars can go in 2 lanes and they can move around the potholes with 2 wheels. Motorcycles can go between them because there's an line. She's got 3 wheels that span all of those. So there's nowhere to miss potholes when you're on a spider.
Yeah.
So she needs a lift kit and knobby tires, and she'll be good, and maybe some skid plates. Okay, yeah. Jody, I hope you're listening.
She is.
Oh no! Oh, in her dreams. Nah, you got this, girlfriend. Go for it. Bring PSP Tommy G with you. She needs an extra cameraman anyway.
I know that Jody could do it. It's just it's a long ways. It's a very long ways down here.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're tapping on an hour now, but what's happening from here?
From here, I'm working my way slowly back to somewhere. I don't know.
He's working his way back to you, Patrick.
Yeah.
There's a song in there. Somebody should write it.
Do you have any more bucket list items on your way that you want to do? Any specific mountain ranges?
Yeah. No, I mean, I have. Well, you can. If you haven't seen my phone before with my, I have points all over South America.
Okay.
That I want to go to and want to see. So, yeah, no, that's what I do and the problem is that every time I talk to somebody, I get 2 more points that I need to add to there because they tell me about something I need to go see. And the list gets longer. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big bucket list things, the waterfalls on the border of Brazil and Argentina, the Iguazu Falls, that's, world famous, the biggest waterfalls in the world, biggest waterfall system in the world. There's stuff that I skipped in Ecuador and Peru because I was in a hurry coming down, like Machu Picchu and some of the mountains in that area that I plan to go to on the way back. I want to spend a bunch more time in Colombia. Hopefully by the time I go slow enough, I've heard back from Mexico and I'm allowed back in, and then I can, because then there's all the stuff that I want to see that I missed after my bike got stolen on the way up. And obviously I want to see everybody in Mexico on my way back as well. So there's still no shortage. It doesn't feel like, it feels like I've checked some boxes and I have so many more that I want to do. It's not like in any way I feel like I'm just in cruise control. I'm on my way back. It's still, the list of things I want to go see is longer than what I imagine I can even do.
Well, and to me, that's amazing because you've already gone all the way as far south as you can go. And now you're working your way back, but instead of just working your way back toward home, you still have all this stuff that you want to do and see. And that's amazing. That's what a 2-year adventure is supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, it's a big world. There's a lot to see. But then you also realize how small the world is when you do something like this, too. And you realize that
you did it on
just
2
run
wheels.
into people. And then, you run into people, and then 2 countries later, you're there and you see them again and you get to say hi. It's not, the world's not as big as you think. In a couple of weeks, you can ride a motorcycle pretty much anywhere if you need to.
Right. Yeah. And that is very cool. And I kind of think about this whole YouTube thing, when you're not traveling the world, I could probably travel across this country and meet somebody that I've watched on YouTube along the way every time I stop.
Yeah, no, you absolutely could. And, if you don't do it on a 250 like I did, you can cross the country in, probably 4 days pretty easily on a Goldwing if you had to.
Yep.
You'd make a lot better time than I did on the 250. I can guarantee that.
So, Dewey, you mentioned earlier some bike issues, and you've talked about some of the travel issues. How's the camera gear holding up?
Some of it's doing well, some's not.
Like your Hero 10s, we've talked about that in the past. Are they?
Funny enough, the GoPros are doing pretty good. Although, as time's gone on, I use more of them less. You've noticed in my videos, it's a lot more camera and less back and forth, because a lot of times now I just film the helmet camera, because I just aim at what I want to show and figure the video is going to be what it is. It's just easier that way. But right now, both drones are non-functioning.
Oh no!
So at the moment, there won't be any new drone footage until I figure out how to get one of them fixed.
What's the matter with them?
The gimbal has stopped working on the DJI. So when I fly it, even when I go forward, the camera pitches down with the drone when it goes. The gimbal's just stuck.
Oh.
And I crashed the Skydio the other day trying to take off, actually, in heavy wind, and it moved to the side, hit my motorcycle as it was taking off. And it just broke a couple of propellers, which is fine, but I'm out of spares. So I need some spare ones, and Skydio doesn't ship here. So I'm going to have to do the same thing as last time and, have it shipped to my family in Oregon. And then I'll have to have my sister ship it somewhere I'm going to be when I'm going to be there and pick them up. So I just got to figure out where that's going to be and when. But yeah, there'll be a chunk without the drone footage because I don't have one that can fly. No, funny enough, I haven't used my 360. I may actually, jokingly, one of the young guys I met from Buenos Aires asked me about 360 camps if I had any experience. And I said, yeah, I actually have one that I never use. And he said, well, yeah, you let me use it. I'll make Instagram reels with it. So I may, when I get to Buenos Aires, give it to him because I'm not using it.
And why aren't you using it?
It's just more to edit, and my time is more valuable to me than putting out the YouTube video with the 360 footage, quite honestly. Yeah, and it's more time to set up because I have to stop, turn it on. I don't have a remote for it. If I had a remote for it, it might be different. But
yeah,
without the remote for it, it's just kind of a hassle.
I totally get all of that. I use my 360 camera like once a month, maybe at this point. But you bought a Sony ZV-E10 to go on this trip with. Are you using that as well?
I've hardly used
really.
it. I've taken a handful of pictures that I couldn't get any other way that my cell phone wouldn't take. But the cell phone camera is so good that I can get 95% of the photos I want to take and all of the video I want to do on my phone. And that extra degree of quality versus the hassle when you're already doing all this travel is, it's not really needed for what I'm doing. It's, it's an extra step.
That's how I feel about my drone.
Process.
Yeah,
One at
I
a time.
rarely ever use my drone because it's just a pain.
Yeah, and even my photography, that's why I bought the one I did instead of the ZV-1 like John has. Is I wanted the better photography and the better zoom lens. But like I said, I rarely need it. The only time I've used it is some really low light stuff where I need that manual ability to really go beyond what a cell phone can do. But everything else during the daytime hours, my cell phone is plenty capable of taking a very, very good picture. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of thought about the 360 camera around here, but I don't see myself wanting to do the extra editing either. Yeah,
I mean, it's neat. If I had one, maybe for doing more stuff on Instagram with more reels, maybe it would be handy, doing more short stuff, but trying to integrate it into the videos, it's just that extra step. And I did a lot of other videos back in the States using it, and so I know what the editing process, and I know what it adds to the video or doesn't add to the video for that matter. It's just
Yeah,
not that.
I was just thinking like
right
Blue
now.
Ridge Parkway, kind of like you when you were on the mountain roads. You can kind of twist it and look at the view as you ride by instead of turning my neck.
Pete's Moto Adventures has a great point. GoPro with the lens mod beats most of my needs. That, by and large, that's how I roll, man. I got my 2 cameras with the max lens mod on them, and I'm off to the races. And if you've got a mount you can spin around, then you've got the angle you've got. Like Dewey said earlier, you get the video you get, and you make it work.
Yep.
You don't spend a ton of time and effort to get that one fancy shot that takes you an extra half an hour, and then you're late to the next destination.
Yeah, and all of the really pretty stuff I stop at, and I film. A lot of you've seen my videos. There's a lot of stopping scenery where I tend to film stuff to stitch together with photos, and at the really scenic stuff, so you get to see it. It's not like I miss the scenic areas in any of my videos.
Right.
So
It's also,
I don't need the 360 to zoom around when I stop and take a picture and take video. Of it.
That's me. I don't stop. I've got to learn to stop. I just don't. When you're on the Gold Wing, it's like, okay, I don't have to stop for 200 miles. I'm not going to.
Ride with me more, man. I stop, every 20 minutes or anytime I want to see anything I see I want to take a picture of, I'm stopping for.
Yep.
I love that.
For videos, I need to do better at that. But for the actual riding, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like
Patrick,
the pictures of it because I'm a photography, I like the photography side of it. I enjoy taking my pictures more than I enjoy making the videos, quite honestly. So, I stop to take pictures.
And if I go somewhere,
Patrick should come up.
away from
Patrick,
here,
you need to cut. Boy, I have the talking stick. Patrick, you need to come up here and ride with me. We'll stop every half an hour and take pictures.
I'm not riding up there.
What? We have back roads you can ride on. It's not all traffic.
I want my woods.
We have woods-ish.
Yeah. No, you come this way.
All right, fine.
It'll be good
I'm
cornering
bringing the whole
practice for you,
family.
John.
What's that?
It'll be good cornering practice for you to go down there.
That would be good, yes. Yeah, I need to practice that more.
Yeah. When you talk about leaning the bike, we'll get you leaning the bike.
Yeah, everybody says that. And then they wait for me 20 minutes at the next rest stop.
Well,
And-
don't
and-
push it. But by the time you leave here, if you spend a few days here, by the time you leave here, you will be a little bit faster.
Yeah,
All right, fair
100%, Jody. I just saw her comment. The ride from Red Lodge to Cody is one that you can spend all day doing and you can stop every other corner because the views there are so good. That's an amazing one. I love that. Yeah, the combination of Beartooth and Chief Joseph is whew.
Yeah. And, if I was going to ride something like that, that's new to me and that I didn't think I'd be riding every other day, I would stop. I do when I go on trips. I stop and take a lot more pictures. When I was up at New River Gorge, I took a ton of pictures because I'd never been there. But just the normal riding around here, I have some great views and stuff, but I still don't stop. I'm like, yep, that's cool.
When you go, Patrick, let me know. And I'll go meet you out there, because the way you need to do those is you need to run it once without stopping, because linking all of those corners together is so fun.
Oh, I bet.
And then you need to ride it, and then you need to turn around and ride it the other way and stop at all the viewpoints and see all the stuff.
Okay. Yep. Kind of like
yeah,
the Cherahela Skyway.
you need to do it.
I love
You
to
need
go
to do it once
Cherahela
without stopping.
all in one ride, and then stop and take pictures another time.
Yep. Yeah. Because it's so fun to link all of those corners together for that many miles, just constant, and you just get to keep going back and forth. The bike's never upright. You're always leaned some way or the other. It's
Flipping the
fun.
bike back and forth is the best part.
Yeah.
You guys are hilarious with your leaning. I ride a Harley. We don't have to lean.
Well, you You do.
Yes,
I've
I
seen
know.
plenty of guys whip their Harleys around.
I know. Speaking of
I
which,
was-
we've got our buddy Jarvis Biker in the side
I was,
chat.
I was just
Yeah,
going to
hey,
talk about
Jarvis.
him. I was behind him or right next to him most of the time when we did the Ohio Winding Nine, and he's on a road glide. And that man he was riding that thing like a sport bike.
Dude, when we rode at VAM, I was right behind him from one place to another, and we get up to the end of it. And I was like, man, that was some fun riding. And he was like, yep, I had my feet on the highway pegs the whole time. And I was like, fucking hate you.
Yep, that was just so relaxed for him. But
Yep.
Yeah.
that man can ride a motorcycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was going to
Yes,
ride
he
the
can.
Tail of the Dragon with him, go ahead.
That's experience.
Yep.
You only get to do that after you've seen a million corners.
Right.
And
You know, if
what
I'm going to
expect
ride the
around
Tail of the Dragon with him, I'm putting him in front.
Yeah.
Well, I got to get out there. We got to ride together, Jarvis. I like to go fast.
Yep. Yeah. And Road Glide Andy, same thing. He was just hammering those corners. If all of us were down here riding the Tail of the Dragon or any of these other great roads, we could have some fun.
Well, at some point, I have to make a trip out of that.
Yeah. If you do, I'll make sure I've got the map, one of those with all the cool roads, and try to link them all up and make a great trip out of it.
Yeah, I like Jody's comment.
Yeah. When Jody, Tommy G, and I went on the Tail of the Dragon, it was the first time I'd been on it with the Goldwing. And I told them, I said, well, you guys are kind of together, so I'm just going to meet you at the other end. And yeah, and I did.
Oh, man. No, Patrick rides fast even if he has a pillion.
Yep.
Yeah, Des just about fell off your bike while she was sleeping and you were throwing sparks.
Yep. She did get real cozy back there, and it's a Goldwing. Hardly even knew it.
Yeah, does yours have the armrests? I forget, because some have them, some don't.
Yeah, they were put on mine, and they kind of tuck around. And my wife's only 4'11", so she sits back there, and it's like in a comfortable captain's chair in a car.
Yeah.
And yep, yeah, Pete, I've passed a lot of Harley riders on the Tail of the Dragon.
I've passed a lot of Harley riders, but I've had some that just flat out surprised me.
Oh yeah. Well, that's Jarvis. Like he's talking about Des. She was riding as a passenger on the Ohio Winding Nine, and Wayne was right behind me. And Des is in the intercom, and she's saying, "Oh, look at that! Look at that!" And poor Wayne's back there thinking, "Gotta hit the brakes! Gotta hit the brakes!" He didn't know what she was trying to signal.
That's the hard part with the hand signs. If you
Yep. Yeah, she was talking with her hands, but it was something. Poor Wayne, he's like, I just gave up on looking at her hands. Figured, if I crash into her, I crash into her.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm. But
so, how's the beer down there? I always see you drinking a beer.
Yeah, I'm drinking Argentinian beer. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of breweries and craft beer in Argentina, more so than Chile. Chile had more than Peru, obviously. Peru doesn't have much of anything. Yeah, Argentina has a lot of it. It's good beer. I like it. Argentina's cheap too compared to Chile. Was rather expensive. It was a lot closer to North American prices for things. Down here, a burger and 2 beers at a restaurant costs me $10. So for all of it.
right.
Jody wants to know if there's any good porters down there.
I have. I actually had a really good oatmeal stout just a couple of days ago, too. It was good. So
she's asking about the porters, but what she really wants to know is about the coffee.
The coffee, I actually just bought a bag from the little coffee shop next door. They roast their own, and so yeah, no, it's good. there's definitely no shortage of coffee. Again, it's not Peru. They have coffee here.
You may have to send her some. She's a coffee freak.
Yeah, the shipping, it's the hardest. But the funny thing is you can probably get as good a coffee anywhere in the U.S. because even the Colombians, when I was in Colombia, told me that, the best of the best coffee gets shipped to North America and Europe. What's left in Colombia is the stuff that didn't make the grade to go to the U.S. and Canada and Europe, where they pay a lot more for it. So, yeah, you're gonna definitely get as good a coffee in the States anywhere you go. But no, what Jody needs to do is fly down to Colombia and go do a coffee tour where you go stay at 4 or 5 farms, one after the other, and you go get to see the farms and try the coffee and do the whole process.
Yep.
Way to go do it.
Nice.
I see a travel series on Purple on 3's channel.
There you go.
No, Jody, it's a medium roast. It's actually Colombian beans, organic Colombian beans, in a medium roast.
Yeah, I saw that your video with Peru and having trouble getting coffee. I was like, yep, that's it. I was planning this whole trip. Can't do it. Not gonna happen.
Sure.
Not enough coffee.
Well, there was coffee a quarter mile past where I finally pulled into the gas station and got a Coke and some cookies.
Yep. He finally gives up and stops, and right after he does that, there's coffee.
No,
Of course.
I mean, most places, almost every hotel has breakfast offered. That morning I was at a hotel that didn't. It was one of the rarities to have a hotel that didn't have it. And I didn't have any with me for some reason because I ran out. But almost always I have some with me because I have my AeroPress, and all I need is to heat up some water, and I can make my own coffee. But I didn't have any that day for some reason either.
So hold on. You've got all the camping supplies and your little bit of clothing and your camera gear, and you're hauling a coffee press on your CR250.
Yeah, but it's only
I used it this morning because it's Sunday, and so all the coffee shops are closed or they don't open as early. So I used it. Yeah, it's just my little AeroPress that I carry with me.
Oh my goodness.
Well, when I camp, I've got to have coffee. You should understand this, right? It's not camping equipment if you can't make coffee. What's the point of camping without coffee?
That's very true.
When he gets back to the States, because of the expense of hotels, he's going to be camping again. He's going to need that.
I'm going to have
Yeah,
to.
right.
Yeah. Which is going to be tricky if some of, if I end up swinging over through the South and the East Coast, there's a lot less camping than I'm used to in the West.
Right. Yeah, you actually got to find campgrounds and pay for them.
And they're going to have room and not be full.
But that goes back to the whole YouTuber thing. Dewey knows enough people up and down the East Coast that he can just stop wherever he wants and, pitch his tent in somebody's front yard if he wants. we know like 48 people between here and Florida.
Yeah. The problem is it'll be slow because when I go back, I know Carson's in here watching. I've got to swing back and spend some more time with Carson. I felt kind of bad that we only got to kind of hang out one day on my way across the country because I was in a hurry.
I'll go with you.
Yeah, and same with swinging by Patrick. I've got to go ride some corners with Patrick when I get out there because we rode together, but the biggest corner we took was turning into the parking lot for lunch.
and you talk in your videos all about the elevation, how I'm at 5,000 feet and you're at 15,000 feet, and when we rode together I think we got to 10 feet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we're at 300 and some feet here, I think.
Yep. Yeah. No, so at some point, hopefully on my way back on this trip, because I have the time, once I get back home, I'm going to start working again, obviously. And then the time to go do it becomes a lot more difficult. So, hopefully maybe on my way back, I'll be able to kind of do a lap around the US and say hi everybody on my way back home.
The victory lap.
I'd say I'd stop and see Jody and Tommy, but chances are Jody and Tommy will be who knows where, around whenever I get there. That's
right.
I'll just have to stalk them on Instagram or Facebook and
Well, maybe
figure
we
out where
can get
they're at.
maybe we can get Carson to meet up here when you come through, and then we'll all ride together toward Carson's.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Jody's gonna leave the light on for you.
Yep.
No, I appreciate that,
Kelly.
Jody, but the reason I want to go there is to see you guys, not to see your house.
You want to see the farm animal? Come on.
Yeah, you can take care of the cows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody has to feed them.
The problem is I don't know if they want me to take care of cows. Like the only way I know how to take care of cows is on a grill.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they've named theirs, so they're pets now.
Yep.
Oh,
Carson
my
said we'll
goodness.
do it.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Well, anything else to say, Dewey? Any other questions, Patrick? We're coming up on an hour and a half, and
Yep.
we know Dewey has to get his beauty rest because, I mean, look at him.
Well, it's
And
later
I'm a
there.
couple
for
hours
him.
ahead of you guys, so.
Yep. We name them, then eat them.
Oh, that's cruel right there. I like it.
I do too. Oh, we're having Polly for dinner tonight.
See you, Pete.
See you, Pete.
Take care, Pete.
Yeah, I
guess
think
we should
I
probably
think I've
check if
covered everything
anybody.
I wanted to.
Were there any comment questions that we missed, or does anybody in the side chat have any questions they want to ask? Now's always a good time.
Yeah.
People for eating tasty animals. I'm not calling them. They have great recipes, though. No, I think we covered all the questions that had been asked in the side chat. I've been trying to keep track of it over here on my other monitor.
Yeah, I think John was doing a good job of keeping up with all that stuff. Pete came in a little bit late. I think he just left, but he came in a little bit late and asked about the bike, how it was running, and I think I kind of covered it just in the comments.
Yeah, you did that.
Which it'll be running fine here. It's just whether it takes 2 days or 2 weeks, but it'll be back.
Jody's got a question. I'll let you read it.
Yeah. What I usually do, Jody, is it takes me somewhere between 4 and 6 hours usually to do a video from start to finish. So what I usually do is I try to spend 1 hour before I go to bed every night so I can, go get dinner, go see the town. By the time it's dark and I get back to my hotel while I wind down, I spend an hour working on video, and by the end of the week, I have it out. Doing it that way, just an hour a night. The harder bit is actually storing all the footage, because at this point I'm editing footage from November and it's middle of February, so there has been a lot that's happened between, and storing and keeping that footage organized is the real process.
Oh, I bet.
I know that all too well.
At the rate that I'm doing videos and the rate that I'm gathering footage, I am going to be home for a year by the time the end of the video series is done. Yeah.
I agree with Wayne.
Yeah. But I want to share it, and I don't want to skip over things for the sake of getting to other stuff that I've already filmed. I want to tell the whole story, and
yes.
I think I also want to show the ups and downs, like the Peru video is, it wasn't really a fun video, but it shows the reality of it and the reality of the places that I was at.
And I think part of the reason why I like that video is because you could hear it in you when you were talking about it. John had said earlier about doing the voiceover, which is great, but I also like to hear you at the time that it's happening and what you're coming through the video. You can hear your emotions, your disappointment in northern Peru. I mean, it came through that video.
Sorry, I just read. It wasn't my success. That was Terry.
Oh, secrets. Andre, thank you.
We stopped at a waterfall on the Carretera Austral, the whole group of us. And there was a bus, a whole tour bus of elderly Chilean ladies got off, and they were way more interested in us and the motorcycles than the waterfall. They're taking selfies on our bikes. You know, they're asking if they can sit on it, and they're all getting their pictures that, you know, with their backs to the waterfall, basically, as they're taking their pictures on our bike. And the one lady comes over and she asked me if she can borrow my jacket to put on. Then she asked about my helmet and my gloves, and she's in all my motorcycle gear and sitting on my motorcycle. And I forgot that I had the Bluetooth still playing music. And she gets off and tu Cusca, la música en tu Cusca. Muy bien.
That's awesome. How did we not hear this before?
Oh, I don't know if
Because Andre knew and we didn't.
Andre didn't prompt me to tell a story about. Yeah, I mean, we have, and then we were joking, and we're asking them to pose in front of the tour bus for us to take their picture. yeah, we had fun, but
Yeah, that's funny,
Terry
Jody.
was definitely Terry Andre was a lot better with the old Chilean ladies than I was. They just saw my motorcycle kit was red. They saw Cristiano's Harley and the red motorcycle. That was all they could see.
That's awesome.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Paul's right. The motorcycle stories are always the best. I was up in West Virginia, and I got there early afternoon. So I was in the tent getting everything ready, and I hear these kids and this woman saying, "Oh, you like the motorcycle?" So I go out, and there's these 3 little kids looking at the bike, and they're all happy about it, and plop all 3 of them up on the bike and taking pictures of them. And it's just little things like that that you remember.
Oh yeah, and I always let people sit on it because my bike draws attention too from a lot of, I know one of the guys a few days ago who was riding an XR 190 or something, and he wanted a picture with my bike and wanted to see, hear all about it because it was his dream bike. He'd read about him in all the European magazines and all of that stuff, but they couldn't get him here. And,
Yep.
So getting to see one in person for him and get to take a picture with it was a big thing for him. So I always let him do it.
And mine
I
draws
think that's
the
part of the
attention.
fun of it.
Mine draws the attention because it's giant and it's about as bright as the sun.
Yeah.
My bike draws no attention.
Well,
Should have
it
got a
does,
yellow
and
gold
then they
one.
see you and they go the other way.
Yeah. They see me and just see red flags.
Right. But
Good fun. Hey, Jody had asked if you're using solid state drives to store your footage.
I am. I have solid state drives, and then I upload everything to the cloud as I get time. So I'm not even reliant on the solid state drives. If I don't. So I actually have like 8 terabytes of solid state drive storage with me. And, but then I've already filled up 5 gigs on the cloud that I've taken off of that stuff. And
wow.
So, yeah. Or 5 terabytes, sorry, not gigs, 5 terabytes on the cloud. But I hope too, at some point when this is, when I'm home and all the footage and I know the end of the story, then I can think about the story that I want to tell as a whole. And I'd like to make, some kind of hour-long, 2-hour-long full thing. But there needs to be a whole story there.
Yes. And I still say you need to write a book.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I've never fancied myself a writer, but maybe because I write, as you know, Patrick, did we talk about this in the last one? I think briefly, but I write down 2 or 3 paragraphs every single day, and I have of the entire trip of kind of my thoughts on the day from that day.
Yep.
And what happened and who I met. And usually most of them have a story about a single person that I met that day that kind of reminds me of that place.
And that 2 or 3 paragraphs going to bring back a whole day's worth of memories.
Right. So I'll have all of that, and maybe at some point with some professional help or something, if somebody who was good at it wanted to help out or something like that, then maybe something like that would come about. I mean, honestly, I'm not a good enough writer, and I don't have the editing skills or the ability to write a book. I'd have to I'd have to encounter some people or meet somebody that was willing to help out and had the ability to make it something that was worth reading, or at least
Way back
more
when,
than you would read, Patrick, or somebody, you know, my close friend, something that the general public would want to read.
right? Way back when I still had one of the printers with the paper, the perforated paper with the holes in it, they had to roll up and floppy disks. I wrote a novel. Nobody wanted it. Nobody read it, but I wrote it.
Yeah. How many tires? So let's see. Well, I started out on the tires on the DR. If those don't count. I left Portland on the CRF on a set of tires that I got from, you know, my friend Mike. And I changed those in Little Rock, not because I needed to, but because I was tired of carrying the weight of carrying spare tires on my bike that I'd ridden all the way across the country and through East Texas wind with. So I put those on in Little Rock. The rear tire made it from Little Rock all the way to Punta Arenas. So it made it all the way, the entire length of South America on that rear tire. I put a new rear tire on in Punta Arenas, and that's the rear tire I'm on now. I'm still on the front tire that I put on in Little Rock, Arkansas, because
That's
I could not
amazing.
find a front that I wanted in the size, and I still haven't found one. So hopefully sometime in the next couple thousand miles, I'll find a front tire. But I think I have 2,000 or 3,000 miles left in this front tire.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I was thoroughly impressed. I'd never ridden these tires before. They were the Mitas, the EO7, the original EO7, not the Dakar, not the EO7 Plus, not the original EO7. And I was thoroughly impressed with how well they performed on pavement, how smooth they were, how well they did on the dirt riding and gravel riding I did. You know, none of it's hardcore, but I'm on a loaded motorcycle and I'm traveling. You know, I'm not out doing hard enduro or trying to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's done every single thing I ask of them, and they lasted forever. I was thoroughly impressed. I would 100% run those tires again.
Yeah, I'm with Carson. If you can't find a tire, he or I or one of us can get one and send
Yeah,
it to you.
well, the problem is that the best thing to do is if any of you want to come spend 3 or 4 days in Buenos Aires or something, right? Bring it as your carry-on.
Right.
Fly down with a tire. You know, I did that. I sold a tank for my KZ650 SR to somebody in, I want to say, Portugal, and I ended up shipping it to Florida, and he used it as a carry-on to fly over the pond over to Portugal to do it.
Yeah, I mean, by the time you deal with all the delays and all the taxes and fees for importing and all of that stuff, you know, if it's a $300 or $400 ticket, fly down and carry it on. We'll hang out for a couple days
and have some fun while you're at it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I know. I imagine in the big that, you know, I think probably 1,000 miles from Buenos Aires where I'm at now. So, you know, when I get somewhere like Buenos Aires, or if I have to ride back to Santiago in Chile and then come back across, you know, those big cities aren't very far, and they'll have tires for sure in my size.
All right. Well, there you go. And if you don't need them right away, you can send them up the road a little bit and
yeah. No, they did have a used tire in Punta Arenas, the same size, and it was what I put on the rear this time was a Heidenau K60 because it was what they had. It's not my favorite tire; it never has been, but they had it and it was in my size, and I know that it'll last a while.
How's your chain doing?
They had a used takeoff front that somebody had used. But I looked at it and looked at mine, and based on how long mine lasted to get to where it was, I figured I had as much life left in what I had as the used one. So I might as well just go with that.
And how about the chain?
The chain is getting there. The chain's easy to replace because it's just a 520 O-ring chain, right? I can get that anywhere.
Okay.
The problem is that when I did the chain in Miami, I didn't do sprockets.
Oh.
So we're going to need sprockets.
What I need, yeah, when I do the chain here soon, I need sprockets. I need to find sprockets. I was just looking yesterday. I looked it up. The front sprocket is the same as the CB300 and CB300F,
Okay.
which I believe are sold down here. So I think that I can get. And the rear is the same as the XR650L, but it's a different tooth count. So, but hopefully I can find like an aftermarket sprocket with the teeth that I want. That even if it's an XR650L one, and it's the right teeth count, it'll bolt on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll get that figured out.
You get the different tooth count and just have to relearn how to shift all over again.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to talk to my sister anyway because I need some drone parts. So I'm gonna need to package and so if she needs to spend a sprocket or two and the drone parts, that's easy too, and I can get a chain down here anywhere. The tires are a different thing. That's a lot of weight and a lot of bulk to ship. So yeah, it'll all work out. I mean, the nice thing is if I have to wait a week for something, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, as long as you're in a nice place, you could be in Brazil checking out the Brazilians for Tomek.
Yeah. I'm over here like, why is Amazon Prime taking 2 days? Why can't they do it today? And he's over there. I'll just wait a week. I'm good.
Yeah, waiting a week on a beach somewhere in Brazil does not sound bad.
Yeah.
No, I guess if you put it that way, yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah. It's not like I'm sitting watching my clock for it to show up. I have stuff to do. There's no shortage of stuff to do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, other than this weekend's been a little bit harder because usually I have my bike too if I want to go ride somewhere to do something, but I'm not really riding because I don't want to put any extra miles on it until we get it fixed. So I've just kind of been wherever I can walk to. But, Giorgio popped by and we went and did that. And another rider from Canada I met up with and we got a beer because he was here too. So, yeah.
Road God Andy has a parts drone.
Funny enough, I have two. I have a DJI Mini, and that's the one the gimbal is broken on right now or isn't working. I also have a Skydio 2, and that one I need propellers for because I just crashed it.
I should just give you mine. I hardly ever use it.
Yeah, I mean I was doing some research again today while I was just kind of hanging about on the computer of things to do to try to fix the gimbal with resetting it and recalibration and trying to get it to work again. So I'm going to go through all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Broken gimbal. There you go.
So tomorrow, please let me know how it goes with the bike.
Paul, that's not a bad idea. My 360 and the kite would work.
Yeah, you finally find a use for the 360.
Because I don't have to try to aim the camera. I get it all. I just got to hang it from the bottom of the kite.
Yep.
And there's no shortage of wind down here.
I was going to say.
Wind to fly a kite.
Well, actually, going along those same lines, it's the gimbal that's broken on the drone, but it still flies, right?
The problem is that the camera, as you try to turn and fly, it aims down at the water and then aims back up at the sky. And
so hang your 360 from the drone.
I don't know if it can carry it. With my drone, that drone's tiny and the camera's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, his flight time would be like 3 minutes if it lifts off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carson has a question. Mexico deal, huh?
It's been more than a few weeks, Carson. I dropped the paperwork off the end of August, beginning of September, somewhere around there, whenever I started my way across the country.
He's probably referring to the last live stream where he mentioned it.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, but no word from Mexico.
There you go.
I imagine that if they have until September to notify me, that they are going to take until September to notify me.
You got to have somebody call because they can see the house where the person that does that work lives, and they can just call them and say, "Hey, go to your office and do this."
I think that went into a bureaucratic black hole in Mexico. And
Most likely.
yeah, no, I mean, the hard part is going to be at some point I've got to make the decision of if I'm going to ship the bike back from Colombia to Miami or if I'm going to ride back. And that's a tough decision to make if you don't know you can go through Mexico.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because you,
Gets a
So-
little
like you
dicey.
said earlier, you really want to go through Mexico.
I
See
do. I very
people.
much want to go through Mexico. I want to go see a lot of people in Mexico.
Hmm.
Just don't stop at that one hotel.
But it's a lot easier to ship my bike from Bogota, which I know how to do. And I have, than to try to figure it out while I'm in Guatemala, while my visa is going to expire and I have to be out of the country and, or whatever. And it's just, yeah, it's
Well-
hard to convince myself that setting off into Central America, which is very small when you take out Mexico of the equation, it's like 500 miles from Panama to Guatemala, and the rest of it's all Mexico. So it's really hard to justify going across there to try to get there, to go for 500 miles when you can't go through Mexico. I'd have a hard time, as much as I want to go see that stuff, I'd have a hard time doing that if I can't go into Mexico.
If you can't ride to Mexico, you can still go to Mexico, right? Just wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to
I
bring
can
a bike.
fly into Mexico as a tourist, but I can't bring a vehicle.
So you could ship your bike to Florida
Oh,
and fly into Mexico, hang out with your friends and ride with them on their broken blue motorcycle.
yeah.
And maybe
No, I
you know,
get it.
one of us can go get your bike for you and put it in storage until you can come back and get it.
Yeah. I mean, but if I'm going to fly down there, there's lots of options. I can fly from any time, I don't have to. So, yeah, I'll figure it out. That's a problem for a different day. I have, I have time, at some point in the next 6 months, I'll hear back from Mexico, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And then I'll know what I can do.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I think I got to go. And I know, Dewey, it's getting real late for you.
Yeah, it is. And I gotta be at the mechanics in the morning. So
Time for parting words. Dewey, you get the solo first.
thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for all the questions and all the support and watching the videos and checking in on me and the Instagram comments, all of it. I really appreciate it. It always makes my day to see that stuff and see the comments. So yeah, leave that and any questions you have for me, shoot me a message or just ask me on YouTube or Instagram. Happy to answer them.
One final question from Carson.
Yeah, I think that's probably about the right time from here back to Colombia in the next 6 months, or so. So
Very good. Patrick, any final words?
All I want to say is thank you, Dewey, for doing this and for letting us in on your great adventure. And for anybody who's still here, like, subscribe, check out Dewey's videos. It's so fun to watch.
I could not agree more. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and especially our special guests tonight. Dewey, ride safe, travel well. Patrick, stay retired. Good night, everybody.
See
and if you
ya.
haven't, make sure you like and subscribe to both of these guys. If you're already subscribed to me and aren't to them, make sure you
Yeah,
check us
subscribe
all
to them.
out.
Don't subscribe to me. They're already subscribed to me.